we'll give people a 5-minute, 10-minute warm up while I drink my hedgehog coffee. It's not actually made of hedgehogs,
friends.
just to be clear. It's
Gotta go fast. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow.
Sonic's the name. Speed's my game.
We got Sonic effects. Is Sega okay with this?
Yeah. Oh shit. Sega's gonna cease and desist us.
God damn it.
God,
it was like Sonic was in the room. Is Sonic a he?
Right.
A they?
We have a Sonic
we have a loose
switchboard.
That
is Sonic a guy?
He's a good guy.
See, the Supersonics.
Is he a guy?
The Supersonics. Right? Sonic, Supersonics. No. Yes. Anyone?
I mean, I hear Supersonics and I immediately think yes.
Yes.
You
Ray
immediately
Allen?
think yes.
Rashard Lewis? Yes.
Dude, I loved Rashard Lewis.
Hell yeah.
He ruled, man.
Yeah.
Now I'm reminiscing.
Johan Petro? Anyone?
Yeah. Ansu Cisse.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
I can hear Kevin Calabro saying, "And they're bringing on Ansu Cisse for defensive purposes," and that was it. He get 3 minutes in the third quarter, defensive purposes.
Hey, you know who I hated? Earl Watson. Dude tried to play hero ball all the time, coming off the bench. I'm just like, dude, bring Luke back in, please, for the love of God. This guy is just out here checking up threes.
The 2005 team, when they were good finally with McMillan, who was that point guard they signed? Daniels, because they had Ollie and Daniels, right? The Daniels guy was good. I'm forgetting his first name. Antonio Daniels.
No, not Antonio Daniels. Maddie, you're a big Sonics guy.
I'm a big Sonics guy.
I worn a Sonics hat.
Sonics, but I wear a Sonics hat. I like the idea of the team coming back. However, I was not fortunate enough to have discovered basketball to the levels you guys had. You're also old. You're both so old. You're washed. You're washed up.
True. We're dusty.
Yeah.
We're dusty.
Where was Johan Petro from?
From France.
Nice.
And whenever he would dunk, Kevin Calabro would go "Sacre bleu."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That's funny.
That's funny.
That is funny.
Calvin Booth was the first stretch five. People forget that. He would take corner threes.
There we go.
Wow.
Back in 2004.
Mm-hmm. And anyone in here, a fellow Damian Wilkins stan? Anyone?
Oh, I love Damian Wilkins.
Yeah. There we go. Chris Wilcox, Danny Fortson.
Yeah. Desmond Mason. Don't forget Desmond Mason.
Desmond Mason. Hell yeah. Desmond Mason.
He was so cool, man.
Yeah.
Did they lose him in the Peyton trade, right? Wasn't he part of that?
They got him in the Peyton trade.
Oh. So he came with Ray. Okay.
Right? I think I'm remembering that right. Hold on.
I thought he came. I don't remember when it happened. I don't know anymore. No, he went to Milwaukee in 2003. Or I don't.
Hold on.
I think he was packaged with Gary for Ray Allen and whoever they got in return.
Oh, Ray Allen, Flip Murray. Oh shit, Flip Murray.
Flip Murray. I remember. Dude. I kept waiting for him to break out. I thought he was going to be good.
Kevin Ollie in a 2003 first-round pick, which became Luke Ridnour, for Gary Payton and Desmond Mason. Oh yeah, so Desmond Mason did go to Milwaukee in the deal. You're right.
Because Murray had handles. He had juice to him, but didn't matter. All right, Maddie, I feel like we're talking too much about American-centric, Seattle-centric sports here.
Well, no, as I've stated, just for the record, I do like the Sonics. I like the idea of the Sonics. I'd like them to return to Seattle. I like the hat I wear of the Sonics.
You're more in love with the idea of the Sonics than the actual.
No,
Sonics.
I should learn the history. I should learn the history. You're right. I just only have so much room in my brain.
Have you ever watched a Sonics game?
Yeah, on the YouTube.
No, but never as a young lad.
This is like 2008, 9?
The internet
They
didn't
left in
exist in like the early
2008.
2000s.
Right.
Well, didn't you
Eight.
didn't you guys get the NBA over there?
No.
I bet it
Well,
would have been
wow.
really hard to get.
I thought the
And I was a
international push
child.
for the NBA like really started in like the early 2000s.
Maybe.
But I guess it was later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I only kind of got into...
Did you guys get a lot of dirt coverage, even though you're not German, obviously?
No.
I wondered if just all of Europe was like, oh wow, look at Dirk Nowitzki over there. Do you say
No.
Nowitzki or Nowitzki?
I believe Nowitzki would be the proper German pronunciation.
Right, but Americans love saying Nowitzki anyway.
Yes. Funny.
So, but Maddie, so I feel like, do you have any would you like to use the time that we have for the moment to discuss the World Cup?
Yeah.
And all this other
Yes.
How's Rooney doing? Right? He's one of your guys, right?
Rooney broke his metatarsals. It was very upsetting.
That sounds painful.
Yes, but I think that happened in 2006. So.
Rooney.
Yeah. The World Cup is going swimmingly.
Good.
Yes.
Very good.
England are qualifying from their group. They had a tough match against a plucky underdog, but they will sail through these stormy waters.
Does plucky mean like gritty?
No, it's like more on the cute spectrum.
Oh, okay.
First one in, last one out.
So having or showing determined, courage in the face of difficulties. Okay.
Okay.
Not a very... Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. But more of a British trait, I would say.
Sure. Do they have stiff upper lips?
I think the US did show a stiff upper. That was the worst game. Like a lot of casual fans were big on watching the soccer match, the big soccer match. And that was the worst game for advertising soccer to people. It was crap. Absolute crap.
So you wanted the high octane, high scoring shots on goal.
Well, I do think though that Coach Greg, he ran a good system. Like it was high octane pressing. England had no idea what to do against it. And Gareth Southgate came under a lot of pressure in the English press for how he handled it, really.
Maddie, question for you. Is he still the one?
He is still the one. Yes.
Okay. We'll leave it at there.
You heard live from Maddie cool himself. In his hat. That's what our dear listener said.
Yeah. That's very kind. Thank you.
Maddie looks like a white British schoolboy Q.
All right.
Okay. Right. Okay. We've tried to avoid talking about the Seahawks long enough. I guess we have to. Well, do we have to? Oh, does our contract state that it doesn't, does it? We're not contractually obliged to talk about the Seahawks. We just have our podcast, right?
Yeah.
We should talk about it though.
Okay, right. Let me do my fancy little.
Griff, give us your top 10 moments in Andor, a Star Wars story.
Top 10 moments. I give you top 3 off the top of my dome right now.
All right.
So that the climax of the 3rd episode where they're in Ferrex and they get switcherooed.
Yep.
Shoot, I'm doing all climaxes. So the one where they
no spoilers,
do
spoilers,
the heist.
Please.
Okay, heist. And then the 3rd one was the big moment again on Ferrex. In the last finale. So I'm giving boring answers.
I saw you've spoiled that for me a bit.
You've had plenty of opportunity to watch it.
As we all know, Maddie, big fan of Disney productions.
Love Disney. Big fan of Walter and especially Star Wars extended universe. Really good stuff. Yeah.
And the MCU. We love the MCU.
Oh, love the the MCU.
All right.
Yes, love that. Okay, right. Okay. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where I'm sounding cheerful, and I don't know why, because the Seahawks have suffered a very disappointing overtime defeat to the Las Vegas Raiders, 40-34, in a game where the positives, we tried to find them. And this is a very difficult one to find positives. There are some. We'll get into them. But Griff, overall, this is a negative experience where Seattle lost in a variety of ways that are frustrating and almost recurring.
Yeah. It was bad to see the run defense just fall apart when last week or 2 weeks ago against the Bucks, they lost in very specific ways, but then performed at a really high level in other ways. This game, it was just they were bad at everything. And early on, it seemed like they were content to match personnel and formations with the appropriate, on paper anyway, personnel and formations of their own, or rather personnel fronts. But then it just slowly, they started being eroded. And then I wonder if we'll look back and we'll just see like the return of playing way too much, pass rush oriented fronts on early downs. And that's why defenders were getting moved so bad. And if that's true, and I don't know if that's true, but if it's true, it's really alarming that the second you take away one thing in terms of resources devoted to run defense, that everything falls apart. It's like there has to be a threshold level of a certain threshold met of how much attention they're devoting to the run schematically, and then they can defend it well. But it's really frustrating that, you try to twist those knobs that you have, and as soon as you go, you move slightly toward the pass to accommodate Davante Adams, which Pete talked about in the post-game presser, you fall apart everywhere else. I mean, you can't be balanced that way. So I don't know.
Yeah. Before we delve into that, Ty, just overall misery. Say if you're, on a 1 to 10 scale, and 10 is very miserable indeed.
11. This was
11. No, don't do that.
Yeah. I'm breaking the scale. I'm very mad. I'm mad online right now. I mean, all right. This was a disheartening regression for sure, especially coming off of what happened in Germany. And some of the things that we saw, especially in the run game. I mean, 7.1 yards per carry, which obviously is going to be very skewed by the last run of this game, but that's unacceptable.
283 rushing yards, 40 rushing plays.
Yeah, unacceptable through and through. Third down issues, tackling issues. This team, you tweeted it during the game, just not very good in space, especially when it really mattered. There were some plays there that could have been made that just weren't consistently. I thought Cody Barton played a pretty decent game, so shout out to him. But yeah, and then offensively, like they scored 34 points, which is great, but also they left quite a few points on the board. Run game was terrible for the most part, aside from a couple, basically the touchdown runs, and that was really it. And so, yeah, it was just kind of a deflating game altogether.
Yeah.
And it's, and I mean, like, even if they won this game, I think our moods would still be not exactly this, but pretty similar because of just how poorly this defense played.
Yeah. The obviously the man of defeat doesn't help, and we'll start with the defense because we're defensive aficionados, but we will get into the offense. We will get into also some of the officiating, but the defense, what Griff was saying about how they're sort of having to, they're trying to take away Davante Adams. Carroll says after the game, we did some things that we wanted to do in the game plan on defense to try to slow down Davante, take him kind of real seriously. We gave up way too much in the running game. We did not play the run worth a darn. We didn't get that done, as is reflected in the data. But you could envision that. That's what makes it so frustrating. You could envision how that was going to be challenging for them because, yeah, they struggled against what Tampa Bay did, where they mixed up their tendencies, but also when they're coming out in 21 personnel, 2-back I formation looks, it caused Seattle schematic difficulties. And obviously with Davante Adams in the week, Clint Hurt was talking about how in the lead up to this game on the Tuesday, he was talking about how they needed to pay attention to where Adams was and how they were wanting to disrupt him in the pass game while also trying to honor the run game. And you could see how that was going to play out as a dilemma and a difficult one for them to pull off to an extent, because they are a bit talent deficient in some areas. They can't quite get away with stuff, I think, in a way that gives them comfort. And this is why this seems to play out. This is why it's reverted. But then Pete was asked as a follow-up if the Adams stuff came at the expense of the run game, just to double check, because his initial answer, I thought, was actually pretty strong in kind of blaming the game plan, in that we shouldn't have focused so much on Adams. We got to stop the run first, because if you think about the success they've been having, it's been when they've stopped the run, and then they've got into their pass stuff. That's how Pete Carroll has always sort of called defense, whereas I think this system is a bit more halfway on early downs. Now, the Fangio system, which they've transitioned to in 2022. Now, in that follow-up, Pete says, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, somewhat. We did a lot of stuff to keep him out of the ball game. Remember, he had those 40-something targets coming in the last few weeks. But then Pete mentions that he had probably had 10 or 11 today. So it didn't really, despite them taking him out of the game, in that they were trying to bracket him a lot, they're trying to put a safety over him, which obviously removes the defender from the box, and it removes that run defender. It makes run fitting slightly more difficult. Despite them doing that, he still had a lot of targets because he's going to get his yards. He's their best player. They'll manufacture yards. He had 11 targets, 7 catches for 74 yards, 10.6 average, and 0 touchdowns. So he didn't go completely off, but he still had a very productive game.
Yeah.
And Griff, you sort of mentioned before we came on air, but you're sort of thinking they just don't quite have the talent, or is that right?
Yeah. Well, so the whole idea is when you have let me restart.
No.
When you're trying to plug more than one hole,
U-turn here, Griff.
Yeah, I'm U-turning on that phrasing, and I'm approaching the green light again, or I'm approaching the intersection and I have a green light. There we go.
Have you looked over your shoulder? I
checked the mirror's side, everything, but I also have right of way. So sometimes you just have to hold your breath and hope you make it out okay. So when you're trying to plug multiple holes or address multiple issues, like eventually there's going to be a weakness somewhere, a schematic weakness, on paper weakness, and the best way to accommodate that that weakness really is to just hope you have a talent advantage to overcome that. Just like Seattle playing cover 3 for a decade, you could get away with when you have Earl Thomas, because he's a difference maker. Then that means you get to put your chips in other baskets, because he'll take care of that. Like, he erases the disadvantage of continuously being a one high safety, and then you can be versatile in other areas. So if Seattle wants to play, gets double coverage on Adams whenever they want, that means the overhang / flat defender / curl seam defender, whatever the coverage is, the guy to that side has to be a coverage oriented player. And in order to do that, you have to make the front work so that they're not put in some ridiculous run pass conflict. And so, okay, you can do that, but then your front might be so soft against the run, you have problems. And I'm wondering if when we watch the tape, will we see that? Will that be at play here? Will the tape be telling us something really clear cut? I hope it does. But again, it's really bizarre to me that Poona Ford just can't defend the run if he's not playing the right front and the right technique all of a sudden. Now it's hard for a lot of guys. Like Al Woods regresses in that front a little bit too, and he still did some things in the run this game, but like it's tough. So it's a balancing act, and this conversation lends itself toward talking about the draft, but we're not obviously there yet. We don't need to be there yet, but yeah, it's you can't address all issues all at the same time. It's impossible.
Yeah, and Carroll brought up as well. He brought up that what's different about the last 2 games is that they basically used a fullback, and what's really frustrating is while the Tampa Bay game they got a bit caught out from they didn't expect Tampa Bay to run the 2-back stuff. The Raiders game, I was literally saying, we were all saying before the game, hey, this is going to be a tough matchup because the Raiders have an Adams and they are a 21 personnel run game where they found something against Denver where they lent on this powerful run game, this powerful fullback. Seattle knew going into this game they'd have to stop that. They'd have planned for this and they just didn't get it done. So, I mean, that's pretty worrying, and it's not a good sign for the future. Like, coming into this game, Las Vegas was 3-7, and just circling back to the point about focusing on Adams, even on the replays of some of these passing touchdowns, like the one where Brooks is matching the Foster Moreau with inside leverage, he ends up scoring on a corner route. Brooks is in good position, but one, the pass rush didn't get there. That's a different subject. But two, Diggs has come down. He hasn't played like a deep half as though Brooks was expecting him to. After in his press conference, Brooks says there was a miscommunication on the play. They didn't quite get it right. He was expecting someone there. Diggs comes down because Adams has come down. And he's focusing on Devontae Adams. And I think they had even more bracket-like calls where they just double covered Adams more than just playing a cloud to him and a zone over the top, cover 2 to him. So I do think that will show up in run and pass as a way of. There was another play where focus on Adams hurt them. Oh, the game-icing touchdown run. Josh Jones is playing. I think they're playing tight will 6, so cover 4 to the strength and cover 2 away. And Josh Jones, the backside safety, doesn't really make the tackle on because he could have made the touchdown saving tackle, but he's so focused on Adams to start with. He's playing the deep path, but also it's Devontae Adams. So big frustrating. And Ty also, did they have 3 quarterback hits all in the first few plays and then nothing on Derek Carr?
Yeah, I think that
wasn't
it.
There, was it?
No, it wasn't at all. And that was a big reason for the third down issues, right? Like they just weren't able to get him off of his spot at all. And he's better than people, give him credit for, right?
Yeah.
Especially with his progressions. Like he's a good quarterback. He can dissect the defense pretty well. And like you give him time, like he's going to carve you up. And so
real quick, Ty, you mentioned third down issues.
Yeah.
The Raiders finished 8 for 14 on third down. So above that kind of magic 50% mark that Seattle's aiming to keep teams below. But they started red hot on third down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't great.
Yeah, so that's really the story there. And so I don't know how you guys feel, and obviously we'll see after the tape, but like is this a personnel issue that they're not able to get to the quarterback consistently? Like what's going on? What do you think is happening here?
Well, I would say, because Griff took too long to answer, I would say that Derek Carr is a pretty good navigator of the pocket in stepping up, kind of honoring his drop distance each time. And I think that hurt the edge rushers' impact on the game in terms of, okay, they can set a reliable edge each time, but at a certain point you need interior rush.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, and again, we will delve into the film, check out the film podcast when it comes out on Thursday audio, but we do it live on Friday audio, but we do it live on a Thursday night. But I would say it seemed like they had a lot of their like Brian Monet interior playing because they're trying to defend the run from 4 down. But then when you get past, you don't get much interior rush. I think they're just missing that kind of explosive 3 technique kind of player. They don't really have that. Like Poona Ford's quick, right? But he ain't like kind of he's not like a first round kind of 3 tech. And I think that's if we, Griff said about how he can think towards the draft. I think that is kind of what they're missing today, at least. And then the other thing is Darrell Taylor is a real disappointment this season. Don't just take my word for it. Like Clint Hurt said, he can be as good as he wants to be in the offseason. After I'd said that, his talent last year was incredible. Now, maybe he's got too light to pass drop. Maybe he's playing hurt. He's been dealing with some stuff. Maybe the change to the new systems impacted him. Maybe he's just suffering a sophomore slump because it's his second season of NFL, actually playing NFL football. Maybe his speed rush has been a bit worked out and he can't do much else. But he's not even getting passing down opportunities. Bruce Irvin took the bulk of the passing down opportunities. I even saw Boye Mafe in there more than I saw Taylor on the passing downs. Taylor was the guy they were counting on to be the dude. He was ahead of Nwosu. So it's crazy that Nwosu's actually panned out, which is good, but Taylor just hasn't been there. And so the pass rush on the edge is like very one-sided in Nwosu. Irvin can offer a bit, but he's 35 years old, and he was never like a crazy good rusher. He wasn't like your number one type that Taylor still has the potential to be, but we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But it's clearly not working out with him at the moment. So they're missing that edge rusher as well to complement Nwosu. So I think interior rush and edge, but so everything. But Griff,
yeah. I do think ultimately Carr, he mitigated a lot of what was pressure, what could have been pressure. Nwosu and Irvin both had a handful of rushes where they were kind of winning at that gray area, the 8 to 10 yard area where they're getting the corner on their tackles because their tackles aren't very good coming to this game. That's what further makes the whole thing all the more disappointing. But then Carr's just really good at stepping up and knowing just how much time he has to get the ball off. Like he's really good at that. It always has been. It was weird. Like Puna Ford had 2 really clean pass rush runs. Like honestly, some of the best reps of his career as a 3 technique pass rusher really early on. And then he was quieted the rest of the game. So yeah, ultimately, like, I mean, Al Woods had a couple of bull rushes, but it wasn't enough. And Carr in general is just a guy that manages pressure really well. I feel like, outside of what we talked about with the run defense, they kind of have a problem right now with Kobe Bryant, matching stuff in nickel. And I don't know, is it just, because last week I said like he had good coverage on some of the ones that he gave up, but he's just struggling. He struggled this game. Maybe he just struggled this game, Mike Jackson didn't have his best game. Then he was competitive toward the end, so it's not like he went down without a fight, but
Devontae also made that ridiculous catch on him.
Yeah,
I thought Jackson had a fine game, really. Like he had a nice pass breakup. Like that one-on-one catch he gave up was really tight coverage. Devontae's just a joke. Like he's just so good.
Ridiculous.
I think, Brian, you're just seeing the ups and downs of a rookie who's playing like probably the hardest position in the defense, especially in the back seven.
That's fair.
By the way, we saw Trey Brown a little bit at left side.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That was cool. He got rotated out there. Yeah. But it was interesting. He got like 1 series, maybe. I need to see the snap counts. But with Bryant as well, like obviously the pass rush not doing it doesn't help and he will get picked on a bit. But he got stacked to the top of routes a lot, and I think he may have been asked to do a bit more kind of inside matching that he was less familiar with. I think that is what the tape will reflect. But like I come back to the fact that, I know Pete likes to big up his guys. Like obviously that's his whole thing. He supports his players, but he really did like his praise for Brian in that press conference that they kindly let me. Oh no, in the press conference in Germany where he said like he's going to be one of the best nickels in the league. Like they clearly believe in him in the sense that I think he'll get the job next year. Maybe they'll push him with another vet, but like he's here for the long run. I think it's just a learning process, but he definitely had a tough game.
One. Now, in the interim, though, it is ironic, and I think they should keep sailing on the path that they're on. But it is ironic that when they go into too high, they actually ask their linebackers to get depth, and they always end up making plays in too high. And then in cover 3, one way they could help Kobe Bryant is if they stack their zones more, but they're just not they just want them to hug the running back now. Because it's mostly in cover 3 when Bryant's giving a lot of that stuff up.
Like even that Quandre Diggs first interception, the Bryant's beat on the crossover in the middle because it's so hard to play. Like it's just the throw was off for some reason. And then the second Diggs interception, Cody Barton's brilliantly matched with depth, to your point, Griff, in the too high world. He's brilliantly matched with depth. The tight end up the seam with inside leverage, man turned it in a beautiful fashion. And so I don't know that. I don't know. I don't want to overreact to it, but it does. I just get the sense with the defense. Yeah, they got this talent thing, but I don't know if there's like mixed messages, mixed motives. They're not quite on the same page as defense coaching staff because they've made the same. They've kind of done the same thing that was an issue at the start of the year in like game plan issues and like obviously Pete clearly was not happy with the game plan,
and I wonder
he chose to fixate on the 2-back thing, and that's because he was also asked about it. But that was kind of a big deal that the beat cottoned onto the fullback deal. But I think just as bad was some of the gun runs where like they're just going like 5-7 yards a carry. Like you're just like, what are we doing here? And it seems like they're always in that 4 down, too high kind of look. Yeah, rough. Sorry, Giff.
No, yeah, I agree.
So the one thing that I'm seeing on Twitter, and I'm like literally looking at it on my timeline right now, is why wouldn't you just have Tariq follow Devontae around? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Because that means playing cover 1, and then you're losing the chance to play double coverage on him on the perimeter, and that also means it can be hard to fit the run out of cover 1, even though you're gapped out, meaning you've got extra guy in the box. Motion can kill you, and when they have a fullback back there, there's no way you would ever want to play man coverage with a fullback in the backfield against under center.
And Devontae would beat Tariq.
He would beat Tariq, and also it means that he would probably beat Tariq, and also it means you'd have to play nickel in areas you wouldn't want to play nickel, because you're not going when you draft cover linebackers, you're talking about them being good zone match linebackers. You're not saying, hey, go play slot corner on whoever, Matt Collins. Like you don't even ask Fred Warner to play press man on the line of scrimmage against even a scrub slot receiver. It's different skill sets. They bring value in different areas. So playing cover 1 is really a situational call in the NFL. There's no way around that. So it's really just not that simple.
So what happened on the touchdown to Moreau at the end of the game?
At the end?
At the end of regulation, near the end of regulation, rather.
Are you talking about the corner route?
Yeah,
the one with route. Brooks and Diggs.
Yeah, I think that it's like I said. I think Diggs just fixated on Adams, but that might have been the call, and he thought he communicated that to Brooks. Brooks, in his post-game presser, said that he didn't.
Now I wonder if there's going to be more friction between Brooks and Diggs, because we know that they were being two
and
of
it seems
biggest,
like this is the other frustrating thing. Right, this is the other frustrating thing. Like, this has happened multiple times between the two. Like the bust in Tampa Bay, either one of Diggs or Brooks takes that under route across the field. And why are this loss? There's so many issues which we've seen in other Seahawks losses that were present today. Like, this is kind of maybe who the 2022 team is now that we've had what are they, 6-5 now? 11 games.
So 11 games. Yeah.
We've had 11 games. I think you kind of got to believe that there's only so much that the team can fix in a season. There's only so much they can do with their current players. Like, I think the other obviously big loss is Jamal Adams just fitting the alley, fitting the run from depth in 2 high shells. And then also, obviously, his blitzing on passing downs would have helped as well. Like, today, this was the second game in a row where Seattle's bonus fire zones didn't break the protection scheme. So they need an added wrinkle there because they were relying on them quite effectively in other weeks. Now, as a passing downs option. So, yeah, the defense, I don't know. It's going to be a long way back from here. But, yeah.
So they have each individual player that was on the field today, to varying degrees, they've all played very good games, and individually they've all had bad games with the spectrum they're in. And they've all had days where they've all played very well together at the same time and all played very poorly together at the same time. So they can be anything at any week right now. and that's good and bad. Coming off of a loss, that's inherently kind of a positive, optimistic statement because it means, well, they've done it before, they can play well again. I believe that, but I also believe they could have a repeat of this Raiders game. I also believe they could kind of have a weird game where it's somewhere in the middle, like the Bucks game. So I don't know. It's just, you just gotta, I hope the tape reveals some themes where it's like you can at least kind of point to something like, okay, this is kind of the source of the problem, schematically live in something else a little bit, and maybe there'll be a positive downstream effect. I don't know. But it's happened before, so it can happen again. Yeah, that's all I got on the defense. Oh, it is cool. I mean, Cody Barton is an all-around linebacker at the moment, he's been good in coverage for a while now, but he was doing things in the run game, and for him, it's just all about, if he can key quickly, that means his feet are in a place to take on the contact better, and then he leverages the block appropriately, and it's fine. Or he straight up doesn't get contacted at all, and he's fine. So that is a good sign in and of itself. But
had a great fourth down stop flying through on the toss play.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the defense. Ty, the offense was good. Like as you said at the top of the show, that they scored 34 points, but then also, again, recurring issues. They did weird things. They stalled. Their run game had 2.8 yards per carry, and they tried 23 rushes for just 65 yards. Gino had 307 yards passing, but it felt like he sort of had to kind of put the team on his back to an extent that it actually kind of hurt the overall offense, even though he played well overall. Gino also had a pick, which again, really weird, kind of funky looking thing. Should this be happening 11 games into the season? Where are you at with it all?
It was a really weird game for the offense because there were some moments where the passing game and Gino really shined, but there were also some moments where that just left you scratching your head. Couple of sequences that really stand out to me. The I forget at which point in the game. I think it was 27-27 at the time. Maybe I'm wrong. And they went, what was it? Screen, run, screen. And they went screen to DK on 3rd and 11. It was just weird play sequencing, just weird.
Oh, that
especially,
that was like
especially
the
in that
turtle.
moment.
Like, why did they turtle?
Yeah.
Gino was cooking. Like, just let's go win the game.
Yeah. So that really stood out to me. And then there's like a couple of moments, like the last drive, the 2-minute drill drive, where like if DK fully completes that catch on the sideline, like this is like, I think Seahawks probably win this game because it seemed like they were kind of in a rhythm there, but then they get into a 3rd and 10 situation instead of having 1st and 10 from midfield. Like the vibes are off. Also, protection wasn't really holding up today. A sick Abraham Lucas against Max Crosby is just kind of unfair, and that showed up in some of the biggest moments of this game, and some of the biggest reps of this game. And then they weren't getting any push with the run game, and Andrew Billings had to just wreck this game for the most part for the Raiders, it seemed. And so this it was just kind of the perfect storm. And like you said, Maddie, like a lot fell on Gino to the point where it just kind of it became too much on Gino, right? Like there was just too much on Gino. There was no support from the run game. There was nothing that they could really lean on to switch things up here. And so, you saw that, come back to bite them.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, we have to look at the tape, but if it felt to me like Austin Blythe had a difficult game. I'm intrigued to see if Walker was just missing stuff out there. He's also was seen by some of the reporters, nursing a calf on the sideline, so maybe he's lacking some of his usual explosion. I know football, basically everyone plays hurt, but would that maybe had an impact? I don't know. Very disappointing day for the run game though, and we'll have to look at the tape to see why that happened. Should also say Seattle, again, recurring issue. They go 3 for 9 on 3rd down. 33.3%, lower than that 50% number. They're aiming for their field goal their red zone efficiency, 3 for 5, 60%, which is fine. But, I don't know. It's frustrating because, again, it does feel like they've been here before. But, yeah. And then Griff, would you have gone for it? 4th and 5, the Las Vegas 49 in overtime with Seattle needing just a field goal?
Yeah, with how the defense is playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I always believe in them to, and I'm sure Pete does, like, hey, you can get right this drive, because they've done that before, even in their worst games. And they had a couple of defensive drives like that where they actually did play okay on those drives. So, but the way the defense is going and the way Geno was playing, and didn't have the perfect game. I don't know if he had a very good game, but he gave you your best chance. So.
Because like at that point you're having to defend them from a field goal, and they have a pretty good kicker who I know missed like a 50+ yarder earlier, but like they just I had no faith in them being able to stop them even from the 14 to hold them from a field goal, and sure enough, obviously they bust the big run. But I think just at that point, because even you're still at midfield, like there's no guarantee that they're going to get a chance to kick the field goal. So I'd rather give the defense that chance. That's as much leash as they get, basically.
Yeah. They should trade for Max Crosby.
They should. And Darren Waller.
Just saying.
They should have drafted him.
Yeah. Should have drafted
I love how Pete, I mean, he's right to, but I love how Pete, when he was asked about Max Crosby during the week, he was like, he brought up his motor, when the thing which stands out to me about Max Crosby, apart from him being white, is his 3-cone time was something like ridiculous. Hold on, here we go. Are you ready? Are you ready for a ridiculous 3-cone time? 6.89 seconds at 255 pounds.
Now, what's cool about him is he's one of those guys in college who you're like, if he just put on 10, 15 pounds, but he actually does put on 10, 15 pounds, and then he doesn't actually lose any speed.
He still looks slim as hell, right? I mean, he's 6'5", but like he looks. You're right, because we are thinking of him as like a Sam kind of candidate when Seattle's running that 4-3.
Right. Base Sam rush edge, and like a pressure getter rotational guy. Then
now he sets the edge, and he's like a 4-3 end kind of.
He's just
superstar.
good at everything.
Yeah,
he's just good at everything.
Incredible player. Anyway, that's escapism.
So and also his contract is really easy to get out of if you're the Raiders. So
trade for him. So
fire sale.
Yeah,
and we'll also take on Darren Waller's contract for them,
and we'll take Darren off your hands too.
Salary relief.
So so they can fire McDaniels, or maybe he's probably kept his job now. But I'd have gone for it on 4th and 5 as well. Not least because Geno was playing well. They just got Abe Lucas got beat around the edge, which was, I actually thought the tackles did okay. Like, I thought the interior had a bit of a tougher game than the tackles. Again, need to rewatch, but just chip him. Just chip him. Call your best. It's 5 yards. Geno can pass the ball. He was accessing the middle of the field well. Goodwin was having a decent game. What was Goodwin's final stat line? I'm the stat boy. Let me dig that up. Stat boy. Goodwin had 3 catches for 48 yards. Metcalf, 15 targets, 11 receptions, 90 yards. Lockett, 3 receptions for 68 yards off 7 targets. Like, they were, I don't know. It's frustrating. So
Goodwin also had a nice little jet sweep. Got them.
He did.
Third and short. So yeah,
that was probably one of his catches actually. So, oh no, maybe not. Anyway, the offense I think will be fine, but it is more kind of a case of we need to rewatch what happened with the run game. And again, it's unfortunate that I think Geno played well, but it's really unfortunate that he couldn't go and win the game. Like, again, that's an issue. That's an issue. We've been saying it, but we're big Geno believers. We don't need to tell you, loyal listeners, but It would be nice for him to win one in the clutch.
Yeah,
It would be real nice.
this was a really good opportunity for him to do that.
The offense still hasn't scored in the last 2 minutes of the game. Like, what's that about? And that's not just Gino, that's everyone. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, Gino's like Gino couldn't block Max Crosby, so you know.
And then like the weird fumble where it looked like they were kind of stomping on the, finishing the game, stomping on the throat. Finally was like, oh, here we go. The Seahawks have got it done, and well, let me find the situation that happened in.
There's like 3 minutes left. They were down in the red zone. So I hand off to Josh Jacobs. He kind of got bent backwards, and there was no whistle blown.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about the fumble between Walker and Gino.
Oh, that fumble. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
11:54 in the fourth quarter, 2nd and 4 at Las Vegas 23, and Seattle was. What was the score?
I think it was
20. It was tied 27-27, but it just felt like if Seattle got to that, then it would get one-dimensional. And even with the Raiders taking over with 5:37 left in the fourth quarter, Seattle leading by 7, the Raiders just went in gun and started passing. And I was like, I tweeted out, "This is great. They've abandoned the run stuff. They're just going pure pass." And that's when Adams just made his plays and just was a baller, and the Raiders put 4 to a side to try and get him one-on-one. I think they had that one-on-one where he made the great catch against Mike Jackson, and then eventually the Raiders got back into the run mode again. But I don't know. It's just a nightmare. I've rewatched that. The touchdown play, the game winner. I don't know what Cody Barton is doing.
Yeah, because I watched it. I mean, I was thinking the same thing because it was 2 back and they're outcapped, and they get lead strong, right?
There's no there's no wiggle. He just like, I don't know. That's weird.
Well, he thinks he's like fitting the backside fit. So if he's fitting that gap, would that mean Diggs was in the fit? But then he would have been the half safety. So there's no way he.
That's not how it works, though. Like, you should just fit off the fullback. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't make sense. The behavior doesn't make sense on that one.
He fits it like one back, and he's the A gap player.
Yeah, frustrating. At that point, shit was so bad, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's still a winnable game at that point, though, so can't succumb to that line of thinking. Anyway.
Right. So finally, if that's the offense done with, then we've probably missed some things. But do you really want to live every dramatic detail? I don't think so. No. The officiating now. Now, I am not usually aren't the officials evil sort of person, because I think it tends to be what goes around comes around, even though that's not actually true, is it? Sometimes teams do just get hosed. But this officiating was particularly weird. So firstly, Phil Hines had his a downfield penalty where Seattle got a 4th down conversion in the red zone, and it came back on the lineman downfield where it looked like on the broadcast, Haynes engaged his block at the line of scrimmage and then just kept on that block. Now, it could be that he peeled off right at the end, but I mean, what do you guys think of that? To me, that seemed like a nonsense penalty, but maybe at the end we didn't see him come off the block.
I didn't see how far down he got, so I don't really know.
Yeah, but the point being, if you're blocking someone, it's fine. You can go as far downfield if you just stay on the same block.
Right. So if he stayed on the block, yeah. So I don't know if he got off the block. I only saw it the one time on the replay during the game. Griff, did you watch it back at all?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of ticky-tack calls, and you see a lot of those go either direction, and you see them missing those calls a lot, and it's just frustrating that they don't call it there when they had called it earlier. So,
and then talking of downfield blocks, the Mac Hollins one, that was tight. Right. I feel I mean, a lot of people said it was only 1 yard downfield. I think they executed the heck out of that play, but also I would like to rewatch that. And then the really weird ones. So let's deal with it in order of weirdness. So firstly, that Metcalf catch being overturned, I actually thought in real time that was not a catch. And then the official signaled catch. And then they spent, it must have actually been over 10 minutes reviewing the play.
Yeah.
Which that's a whole separate subject, because them spending 10 minutes doing that meant that rather than Seattle getting 1st and 10, it would have been at Seattle's 47 with them marching, and they had about just under 1 minute left to try and go and get a field goal to win the game. It killed the momentum and rhythm of the drive. It brought up 3rd and 10 on Seattle's 35. And it enabled, rather than Seattle being up tempo, enabled the Raiders to call in a play on defense. So I get they wanted to get it right, but if you have to spend over 10 minutes reviewing a catch, how is that indisputable evidence to overturn the on-field call? I've never seen a review that long with the new, indisputable language. Guys, am I tripping here or?
I agree. If it's taken that long, I don't know how, with the language saying, indisputable and incontrovertible language.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, at the end of the day, I did think it was incomplete because the ball, like, it looked like it was just kind of in between his legs there by the time that he was out of bounds. But when it takes that long, I think you just got to stick with the call on the field.
Yeah.
Then I thought I saw enough on the replay that to overturn it like quickly. I'm kind of surprised that it took that long. I don't know what you guys saw, but
yeah. And then the most egregious play, where
egregious.
Was it Al Woods had Josh Jacobs in the tackle?
Yeah.
He had Josh Jacobs in the tackle, and Kobe Bryant, as he does, comes in, punches the ball out. Seattle gets on the ball. And at what point was that in the game? It was a very long game.
Yeah, it was 3 minutes left in the game.
They said after the fact. I mean, I didn't hear a whistle, but like...
Yeah, so 3 minutes in the fourth quarter, that would have won Seattle the game, basically, because it ended up being that the Raiders scored on that drive and tied it up 34 again. And instead, they said forward progress had been stopped, so Pete Carroll couldn't challenge the fumble recovery. But there was no whistle until after the ball had been recovered. So I have no idea how that makes any sense.
That's the shadiest one. Yeah, that's the shadiest.
And maybe his ankle was down, but like
it so wasn't though.
It wasn't.
Not even close. And to even if like the whistle coming in late is weird, but then forget about that. Like even calling the whistle at all, I mean blowing the whistle at all there would have been crazy, because like he's like he's in the middle of a
and there were so many plays where Josh Jacobs fell forward for like 3 or 4 more, wriggling forward. They were letting him do that because he's that kind of runner. So it's a joke.
And I mean, like, what were they signaling on the field when they blew the whistle finally? Were they signaling was he down, or were they signaling forward progress, or did they just decide it was forward progress once Pete tried to challenge? Like, that's what I want to know.
Listen, this was the same officiating crew in the Saints game where they ruled a fumble on one, and then the following throw they ruled it a catch. When I mean, you could argue, but like
they might have an issue. They might have an issue. Might be time to give them some, NFL education. I don't know. What happens to bad refs?
They go to ref
jail.
Ref jail.
Yeah, they send them down to the Pac-12. That's why the Pac-12 has so many problems. They're officiating. Anyway, losing.
So that wasn't why they lost, but it didn't help. Just like 2 weeks ago, them deciding to waive off offensive pass interference because the ball wasn't thrown that direction didn't help. But anyway.
Yeah. Griff, the refs were just so drunk, weren't they?
They were drunk. Capital DRUNJ drunk.
Drunge. Yeah.
What was that? A Thursday night game? Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey,
we need some jokes. We need some jokes to brighten the mood.
No,
okay.
we don't. No,
No,
no
I just
jokes.
wrote
please.
some.
I don't
wrote
want
some in the
jokes.
back
I don't
room.
want jokes. I'm too
I want
sad.
jokes.
There's no.
I
I
want-
can't laugh
I want
ever
jokes.
again.
I want jokes.
Not only did
before that, thank you everyone for listening. Please do review the podcast, give it 5 stars, download it, tell a friend about it, tell a family member about it. Follow the podcast at Seattle Overload. Follow me at Matty F. Brown. Follow Ty at Dane Gunzelas. Follow Griffin at Seem Like Spin Move. And please like the video if you're watching live. Please comment and all of that good stuff. We appreciate you. Ty, do you want to plug any work? Follow.
Oh yeah,
Locked
check
On.
out check out the Locked On Mariners podcast on YouTube, on all your podcast platforms, just like us. Find it anywhere. Check it out.
I agree.
And
if you subscribe, the Mariners will sign Trey Turner.
Subscribe to that.
Guaranteed.
And follow my Substack, Seahawks on Tape. And Griff, what do you want to plug?
I wanted to plug this joke that I wrote. What do Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? I came up with this moments ago.
Yeah, I heard. I saw you were writing up some.
Did Alexander the Great? He was from. They ate honey back in those times, right? Did they both enjoy?
No, they did ambrosia
stuff.
Oh, my voice cracked bad there. Did they drink ambrosia? Not honey.
Well,
I'm sure
I don't remember that in Winnie the Pooh.
All right. What do Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? Same middle name. What is the opposite of a croissant?
What?
A happy uncle. A happy uncle.
Pain au chocolat.
Get it? Croissant. A croissant. A happy uncle. I'm really good at writing jokes.